Om Ajnanaatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Gurudev. In the last satsang that Guruji gave, a question came up about Kartik month and, is it really true that this is the month where your punya and the kind of fruits of your devotion get amplified and increased? Why there's so many festivals like this? And Guruji made the point that these festivals come up because they are reminders. They're like, I would say, alarm clocks that go off and jolt us and put our mind in a certain place. And the Karitk month is an alarm clock that tells us that if we long for God, we can have him. That what we are aiming for, the feet of Narayana, the feet of Guruji, is not just a pipe dream. It's not just something that we are fantasizing about. It is a real possibility. That God is closer than he's ever been before in this month. That's why everything we do is amplified. That's why the punya that we perform, that we receive, is 100-fold, 1,000-fold, or 1,000,000 times more than it normally is. And also the offenses that we commit as well are amplified. Because when God is close, when he is this close, breathing on the back of our neck, then everything we do somehow becomes that much more important. And Kartik is the month where God is so close and that our longing has the possibility of capturing him. That's the Damodara Leela. That we have the possibility, even though we are completely flawed, even though we are full of negativity, ego, pride, whatever, our mind is not at all controlled. Even despite all of that, because we have this longing in our heart, that longing is the thing that can bind Krishna in some way. And so this longing is what Vrindavan is. This is what Kartik month is. The gopis are longing for Krishna as their beloved. The gopas are longing for Krishna as their friend. Mother Yashoda is longing to nurture Krishna. The various animals are longing to be with Krishna. Even the asuras are longing to kill Krishna. Kamsa is longing to destroy and defeat Krishna. Everybody is longing for Krishna. But it begs the question, what is this longing? Because we talk about it. Guruji talks about it. And what is this longing really? And if we look at this longing, we realize it is something the mind simply cannot understand. Real longing comes from the depths of who we are. And it's something that this mind has no clue about. I remember one time I'd met Guruji maybe just twice in 2005 in Germany. And I heard he was coming to London. And there was this satsang at the Hell Clinic where we'd all gathered. And as we waited for Guruji to arrive, 1 hour went past, another maybe hour and a half went past, and then Ravi, Guruji's brother, came and he announced that night Guruji would not be attending the satsang as we'd expected, and that we should carry on the prayer as normal. And when I heard this, I was a little bit frustrated, annoyed that I come into London to see him and he didn't show up. Because I was a new devotee, I expected him to turn up on time and kind of bow to my expectations. But as the prayer session ended and as I went home, I was baffled by my reaction, because as I went home on the train, I was kind of a little bit sad that he didn't turn up, and then there was an eruption, like a volcano of tears. I was swimming, drowning in my tears, because I just kept thinking about him. I just kept thinking about who I was. I kept thinking about what did I mean to him. All of this stuff just started coming up, and I was so shocked at my own reaction that I don't really cry about these kind of things. I don't really miss people. It's not in my nature to be like that. But somehow, something deep within me was just this situation of him not turning up was the kind of trigger that made something deep within me just come out and burst forth. My mind didn't understand it, but something in me was saying, I belong to you, I belong to you, I belong to you. But that is where that longing comes from. Pascal said that the heart has its reasons, of which reason knows not. The mind does not understand why the soul, why this part of us is longing for God. And the reason, what longing really is, it is the eternal part of ourselves longing, seeing and recognizing the eternal personality that is Guruji. That is what longing is. The eternal nature of ourselves recognizing the eternal personality that is Guruji. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that there was never a time when you, me, and all these kings here did not exist. Pushing home the point that we are eternal and in nature. We don't belong to this world. And that part of us that understands that we do not belong to this world sees Guruji, who has come from a place which does not belong to this world, where our true home is, and there it naturally longs. How can the mind, which is bound to this world, understand that nature of longing? It can't. It can't understand that nature of longing. And this is the thing. People often think that bhakti is just is emotional. It's about your emotions. But it's far more than that. See, bhakti contains realized knowledge. Realized knowledge is the knowledge of who you truly are, and God realization is the knowledge of who Krishna truly is. And in the depths of that longing, there is that realization of who you are. There is that realization of who Guruji is. And that's why it just happens automatically. But we have to be careful as devotees, because that longing is there inside of us. But often the mind can hijack that longing. It can take over that longing. And that's where expectation comes in. Because we can obviously long for Guruji, but then when we make demands like Guruji has to be like this for us, and he has to speak to us in this way, he has to bless us in this way, life has to deliver this in a certain way, then really that longing gets subdued and pressed down by our pride and our mind. I remember one time that Guruji had come to London, and I had seen him, I had spent some time with him. And then I found out that some other devotees had also spent a lot of time with Guruji. And they'd had a wonderful time with Guruji. And I heard that Guruji was still around. So I messaged Guruji and I said to Guruji, oh, can I see you today? And my intentions were not really, I didn't really want to see Guruji, but everybody else had told me about how they'd had a great time with Guruji. So I also wanted to top up my experience with Guruji and top up what I wanted with Guruji. So I sent Guruji a message saying, could I see him today? And then, to my surprise, Guruji didn't message me back, he phoned me back. And then he said to me, and I said to Guruji, oh, can I see you today? And then he said to me, why do you want to see me today? And I was like, well, I want to see you today. I just want to be with you today. And he said, why do you want to be with me today? And I said, because, lost for words. It's difficult to answer that question. So I just said, I don't know, Guru, I just really would like to see you today. Because why do you want to see me? And he kept pushing that question. Why do you want to see me? And he's making the point that you don't really want to see me. You just want to almost, like I said, top up your experience. You see other people getting a certain amount of grace and blessings, and you, out of a sense of insecurity, out of a sense even of competition in some way, we want to compete and put ourselves forward. And I was using Guruji in that way. And he was driving home the point that my intentions were not sincere, that wasn't really the longing that we're talking about. The thing is with longing carries a peace. Longing carries a security, because in the longing, there is a trust. There is a deep trust. When that eternal part of ourselves longs for the eternal personality that is Guruji, there is a trust that we belong, and that the fruition, the goal of what we are longing for will be achieved. We don't know when. The mind will try and say it must be done now, and the ego will say it must be done now. But the soul knows it will be fulfilled. And so there is a peace, there is a trust. You know, when Rukmini, in her letter to Krishna, she says, even if you don't rescue me, because she's about to be married to Shishupal against her will, and she said, if you don't rescue me, then I'll be consumed by my own tapasya, and in my next life I'll carry on. The soul knows that at some point this fruition will happen, this goal will be achieved, the feet of Narayana will be attained. There is no doubt about it. And so the soul is willing to play the long game. It will go on and on. The mind, when it doesn't get what it wants, becomes frustrated, it even becomes resentful. But the soul understands, if not now, then next time. If not that time, then the next time. And on and on. The mind will get tired, but the soul never gets tired. It goes on and on and on. And that is what longing really is. And then sometimes people, when we hear these kind of ideas about these truths about longing, we can wonder, I don't really have that longing, I don't have that longing. But I would say that's wrong, because if you're in some way on the spiritual path, if we're a devotee of Guruji in some way, that longing must be there. It must be there. Perhaps it's buried, perhaps it's dormant, but nonetheless, it must be there. And perhaps our mind is too much in Maya, perhaps it's too much distracted, and so it gets put to sleep in some way. But that's the reason why sadhana is so important, to come back to that place and awaken that longing. And then sometimes people say, I don't cry for God, I don't have any tears for God, and we should be careful about saying that we should be careful about thinking that longing is only about crying in front of your deity, and that if you're crying in front of your deity, you are longing. Longing is much more than that. It can manifest in any number of ways. It can manifest in the perfection of your service. It can manifest in the level of your sacrifice, in your renunciation. It can manifest in so many different ways. It is not just simply that we cry in front of our deity, or we hear a nice kirtan and we feel emotional and somehow we say that is what real longing is. No, real longing carries with it a sense of immense responsibility. We are responsible in our spiritual path and in our life. Real longing creates a sense of detachment and renunciation from the things of the world. Real longing gives us, we have a sense of purpose. We have a sense of sacrifice. We are willing to give up that which is not necessary. We have all these things. Real longing has an entourage of qualities that come with it. And this is what we need to really understand. And so, longing in separation is what we see so much in the Srimad Bhagavatam amongst the gopis. Because as I realised that time in the hell clinic, when Guruji didn't turn up to that satsang, when something is taken away from you, that which you have deep inside of you starts to simmer to the surface. And that longing increases. But when you long, it is not that, when you really look at that intensity of longing, on the surface it seems like you are longing for something that you don't have. On the surface. But when you plough the depths of longing, of that yearning heart, you will see that in that longing, you have the goal of that longing. So in that longing for Guruji, you have the real Guruji, the real presence of Guruji. In that separation and in the depths of that longing for Krishna, you have Krishna, the real Krishna. Because it's perfectly possible to be right next to Guruji in his physical presence and have no longing whatsoever and be 1,000,000 miles apart from him. And it is perfectly possible to be 1,000,000 miles away in the world from his physical presence, but in that longing be absolutely, intimately a part of him. So we should realize that in the intensity, in the fire of longing, we have the presence of Guruji there. And I would say that the Karitk month is really every day we are remembering the Leelas. Every day we are remembering the Gopis and their bhav of separation. And we should also remember that we have that longing inside of us. And if we can evoke that longing, if we can intensify that longing through our sadhana, through our tapasya, through our sense of sacrifice, our dedication during this month of Karitk, in that longing, we will have Guruji. In that longing, we will have Krishna. So, happy Karitk everyone. Jai Gurudev.